Right, got it. Over to you, Laura. You on mute, Laura, if you're talking.
Oh, okay, thanks. Sorry about that. So I'll go first and then afterwards I can pick someone to go after me. I'll answer the cat or dogs. We don't have to go in order, but I like that question. I'm really a dog person. We have two dogs, two German Shepherds. I just love dogs because I feel like they're just like a little person and they're like your little best friend. And cats aren't as like attached, I feel like, but I could be wrong because I've never had a cat. But yeah, I think that's why I would pick dogs.
Yeah, how about we just go around the room, Laura? I like this topic, and ask everybody to just choose one of the items and describe why they chose one or the other. That's a good topic. I like it.
Okay. Um, Taylor, I pick you to go next.
Yeah, I would have to say dogs as well. Is this the same question we're doing
You
or
can
the
choose
next one?
anyone that you think is interesting, and tell us why.
Okay, I'll do number five, books or movies. I prefer books. I read all the time growing up. I remember going to the library and getting like a tote bag full of books and reading it in like 2 weeks. So I always prefer books over movies. So that would be my choice.
Okay, Taylor, you can identify somebody else who wants to go next, and we just go around and robin like that.
Sage, you want to go next?
Uh, I would do summer because I hate the cold.
That's a good answer.
Okay, you can pick someone to the stage if we done explaining.
Jonathan.
I would choose YouTube over Netflix because I rarely use Netflix. I don't watch movies a lot.
Okay, choose somebody, Jonathan.
Nana.
Books or movies? I do movies because I don't really read anymore. And I find movies just fun, fast paced, I guess. Fua.
I choose summer over winter because I just like I guess we don't have school or anything. You get to like hang out with your friends. And Jaya.
Jai, if you're talking, you're on mute.
My bad, my mute button wasn't turning off, but I'll do number seven. Um, I'm more of a night owl because I stay up late, but then I also wake up sometimes early in the morning.
Okay, Ty, you can choose somebody to go next.
Uh, who hasn't went yet?
I can go because I haven't gone. I would choose
Okay,
number. I choose number nine. I'm an Android person because I like to customize my phone with different wallpapers and back in the day I used to root the phone to change the different operating system. I can't stand Apple. No offense, you Apple people out there, but it's too many rules and boundaries on Apple. As you know, I'm an engineer, so I like to tweak stuff. So that's just my nature.
I think that's everyone that's gone, right?
Yeah, I think that's everybody. Yep, this is a good topic. Thank you, Lauren.
Mhm. Well, I don't know. Me and you, John, we got some beef because It's not it with the Androids.
I know.
All right. Well,
The consistency of Apple from one device, from your Mac to your phone, everything is very consistent. But I'm a rebel without a cause, Laura.
I like how easy it is. I can just airdrop over here, copy, paste over there. I love it. The simplicity. All right. I think I'll just icebreaker. Let's see. This is our PowerPoint. So this has our okay, it's been updated. Awesome.
Would you mind just going to slideshow?
Yes. Is it
yeah, just click on the slideshow. It should open it up.
My button is not working.
Okay. If it doesn't work, you can just make it big. It's okay. Just zoom in as we can see it.
All right. So I think from here, John, you're gonna walk us through the quick demo. Or do we need to go over where to find the data set still? Do we feel confident?
Yes, we can recap that for those who forgot. We can go back to the that Google website, and I've chosen a data set just for some quick like to do when we don't have a speaker day. What I would like to do is I'll do some very content.
John, you're kind of breaking up, so I couldn't really understand what you were saying there.
A model, and then pull it into Python. Okay. So whenever you're ready, I can start sharing my screen. I can go over that.
Okay. I'll stop sharing so that you can share.
Okay. All right. So this is interactive sessions, students. I want you guys to follow along. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. It should be coming up soon. And you should be seeing a screen on called Python tutorial. Right. So the website that I want you guys to go to is w3schools.com. So I want everybody to get their browser and open up whatever browser of choice and type in that address into the address bar. And then when everybody's there, just give me a thumbs up so I know that you got there. Or just put it in the chat that you got there because I'm sharing. I can't really see all the reactions. I see a fool is there. Okay. Everybody give me a thumbs up when you're on that website. Thank you, Taylor. Nana's there, Fool's there, Jaya, Jonathan and Sage. So you guys able to get there okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. Okay. Sage is there, Jonathan. Awesome. Okay. So this is the website that you guys can bookmark. This is a good resource. As a professional, I even use this resource, and it's all free to learn different things, to get up to speed on different commands. And you can see at the top, there's different languages that you can actually learn. And if you're aggressive enough, or if you have enough time, you can actually get a certification by taking some of these courses. Some of the courses like programming and with HTML, which is the foundation of how we do websites. Also, CSS is also used to build a website. That stands for Cascading Style Sheets. Some of you guys may be familiar with JavaScript. That's another programming language that people can introduce because it's pretty easy. SQL, we will be touching on next week. That's structured query language. That's a way to actually look within databases and find relevant data. And we're going to do the same thing with Python today. So both SQL and Python are two important languages that I believe you guys should, if not learn completely, get very familiar with, because those will be the languages of the future for right now that most professional organizations are using to investigate their data. And I won't go over these other languages here, but there's some other languages at the top that you can be in interest. So for our case, we're just going to be looking at Python today. So if you've taken any Python classes before, the first thing that they teach you is to do the hello world command. So that's it's pretty simple, right? And then what I like about W3 Schools, you see this little green button that says try it yourself. It actually opens up what we talked about last week, which is called integrated development um, environment. So you can actually change the code in real time and see the output over to the right. So let's just go over what this says. So print is a way to communicate with the computer using programming language to tell this what to say in this terminal window over here. So instead of saying hello world, I can say hello Laura, right? And then I'll say, okay, I want to print this word, which is a string. And I'm gonna go over the different data types. But instead of saying hello world, I can say hello Laura, and I run the command and let it do its thing, and it should print hello Laura. So all you guys on your screen, go click on that, try it yourself, and then put your name in instead of Laura, and then print that, and then let me know when you're done with that. Give me a thumbs up or something. Pretty simple. Or you could come off mute and just let me know because I can't really see the reaction. Is everybody there? Are they having issues getting to this screen? Is everybody okay? Are we there? And Laura Taylor, if you could check in with the chat and
Yep. So
make
it
sure
looks
that
like Jonathan and Aqua got it.
before. Okay, got it. All right, so it looks like Jaya, Sage, Nana. Make sure you guys okay. This should be pretty simple. Like I said, this is the first command that in most Python classes is pretty easy. Okay. All right. Looks like most people got it, so I'll move on to the next thing. All right. So one thing I mentioned is we want to talk about data types. So it's important that we understand the different data types in Python. We get rid of these. All right. So I mentioned quickly something. Right. There's different data types in Python. This will be important to know when you're programming. So there's a string type, which is made of text, which is just like words, like you saw me print hello Laura. That's just a string. It's just a list of words. Okay. There's another type called numeric types. So those are stuff like integer. So integer will be just like a number, like 1, 2, or 3. Okay. Then there's also another numeric type called a float. A float is very similar to an integer, except for it has a decimal. So just like integer would be like 3, a float number could be like 3.1. So just remember the difference between an integer and a float is that the float has a decimal. And using Python, you can convert between the two. And we won't go on that until a little bit later, but just to know what that is. So the ones you'll be dealing with the most probably will be string, integer, float. There's a Boolean type, which is you may have heard it until it's just a true or false, right? So if you're looking at is the sky blue, right? That's a true or false answer. So a Boolean would say that the sky is blue. You'll have a return value of true, for example. Okay. All right. So important thing to do when you're programming in Python is to add comments to your code. One, that helps you to understand what your code is doing. And two, if I were to pick up your code, I can say, oh, that's what that person was thinking when they typed this code. Or this is what they meant to do, but I believe I can improve that code. So comments are a great way to both explain your code and to help you remember what different parts of your code is doing. All right. So if you're on the W3 schools, on the left-hand side, click on the menu that says Python comments, and that's the page one. Follow along. The item text that say comment is the number sign or hash mark, right? So whenever you want to comment your code, you just put the pound sign in front of it, and Python recognizes that it's just a comment, so it doesn't execute that code. It just says, okay, that's something that the user is putting in for clarification, so I'm going to ignore it, and it's part of execution. So if I go back to that window I had open with Hello Laura, all right. And there's a couple ways you can put comments in. First way is I can take the hash and you can put a space or no space. I could just put this is a comment. And so if I run it, I'm going to get the same output, and it's not going to input this text that I just added above. Okay. Another way of doing a comment is I can actually put it in the same line as my code. If I'm trying to explain a particular thing, so I will say this line prints a string. I can just add a quick code there, a comment there. So I type this in because this is what I want that particular code to do. And then when I hit run, I'm just going to get the same output without the comment showing up. Okay. All right. So that's two ways to make a comment. And this will be important when you write your code, when you get lengthy code. Another way to do that is if you have a multi-line comment, you're going to put the quote symbol 3 times. 1, 2, 3. You say this is a comment because I don't like to talk to people. And I end it with 3 quotes. That's another way. If you have, I'm being funny here, but that's another way to put it in a multi-line comment for your code. And then I can hit run. It's only going to execute this one line. And this comment above is just to explain what my code is doing, what I'm looking for. So that's a good way when you're programming in Python is add comments to your code. Are there any questions so far? And so this page that I had you go to, it just explains the 3 ways of doing the comments. And I just went through that. Okay. Another thing is in Python is called variables. So these are the basic things you need to know before you start programming. So variable is basically just like a collector or a cup, right? For example, in this window right here, we got a variable called x, and I'm going to assign it a value called with the number 5. I'm also going to have a variable y, and I'm going to assign that the string. You see it's in quote. All strings needs to be in quotes. I'm going to assign that the value of John. Okay. So when I go and try it myself, so I've assigned x a value of 5, integer, and we talked about that. And let's do z. I'm going to give it 5.3. And does anybody remember what type of data type 5.3 would be? Just come off of me and tell me.
Quantitative.
It'll be what?
Quantitative.
In this case, remember the 2 different data types. So x is what we call an integer, okay, and z in this case would be called a float number because it has a decimal. That's the only difference between an integer and a float is that a float you can deal with like portions of a number, like 5.3, or if you guys familiar with the number for pi, right? 3.14, blah blah blah. That's a float number. And then a y in this case is just a string of John. So if I and like I did before with hello Laura, hello world, I want to print what did I assign my value as so I can tell what it is. So I'm going to print that and let it run. that's another thing I want to point out. Is Python is case sensitive. You see here, I did a print lowercase z, but when I accidentally typed the uppercase z for my variable z. So just be careful with uppercase and lowercase because it sees it as two different things. So now when I run my code, and that's part of troubleshooting. When you get code, you need to figure out what went wrong in my code and then how can I correct it. So I assign the value of x to 5. I assign z as a float number, 5.3. And I assigned y to a string value of John. And I just printed those. Okay. Everybody good so far? All right, so I just changed one simple line of code, right? So I took the original code that says print x, and it gave me the value of x, okay, which is 5. The next thing I did is I actually put in, tell me what the data type of integer of variable x, right? And I can do the same thing for y. So I'm going to type in print the type of the data type of y. And what do you think it's going to give me as a response? Anybody? If I say, what is the data type of the variable y? What should it say? What do you guys think? Couple choices. It should be integer, float, or string. Who thinks they know the answer? Any guesses? Chat. All right, how about we just run it there and let's see. All right, so the answer should have been string because I mentioned it before that John is a string because we put it in quotes. So what we asked Python to tell us is print means show us what is the data type of variable y. And because I already told you y was a string, it returns that, okay, the variable y is a string. Let's do the same thing with variable z. And I'm sure you guys know the answer here, what it's going to come back as. We're going to run it. All right, and that's float. So remember I said the only thing difference between the integer is the float is the decimal. You can see the x is assigned as the integer 5, and it told us over there that it's an integer. And z is assigned 5.3, and then we asked what is the data type, and it tells us, oh, that's a float number. So that could be important when you're doing calculations within Python to tell you what type of number. All right. Does anybody have questions so far? All right. Okay. Let's go on. All right. So just like you can do with a manual calculator or online
Yeah,
calculator.
I had a question.
Oh, go ahead. Yes.
I was asking what changes between when you put like the type Z, what changes it when you put like the type Z between when you just put the equals to Z.
Okay. All right. So that's a good question, Jonathan. All right. So what we're doing here, when these first 3 lines, we are assigning a value to this variable. So here's the variable x. I'm going to assign it to some value. It's either going to be an integer, a string, or a float. In this case, I chose to assign x as an integer. Okay. In this case, a z, I chose to assign that to a float number of 5.3. And for y, the variable y, I chose to assign that as a string. Okay. So let's see if we just do print x, it's just going to give you what is the information contained in the variable x. Just think of it as a cup, right? You have a cup, you put something in there. In order to know what's in the cup, you just ask Python, hey, what's in my cup? And then you use that by doing the print command. And if I run it, I'm going to ask what is in my cup for x. And it's going to tell me, oh, you have the integer of 5, or you have the number 5 in your cup. So to your question, Jonathan, I want to know, okay, so what type of data is in my cup? That's what we do the type. What is the data type of my X cup, right? So the first line is going to tell me in my cup called X, it's going to be a number of 5. So I then asked it, what is the data type? What's the type of data that's in my cup? It's going to come in as an integer. Does that make sense, Jonathan?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's a good question. Yep. So in this case, we are assigning the value here. Okay. Now, there's another thing that you can do is called, we can do like operation. You guys are familiar with like equal to, greater than, less than, right? So what you can do, you can have an extra return. I'm going to say 5, and I'm going to ask Python, is 5 equal to 3? And what should the answer be there? What do you guys think?
Can you
Is
say it
5?
again?
Yeah, so one, you can also use Python as operator. And what I just typed in here, when I put the double equal sign, you're asking Python to determine the operator. This is the operator. Is it equal to in this case? So it's 5 equal to 3. What do you guys think?
False.
Yeah, it should be false, right? Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's see. So now that we have, let's see, let's change the value of X. So originally X was 5. So you can change what's actually in that container called X. So X was 5, but let's just say I want to change it to, let's add the original X value, plus I want to add 3 to it. What do we think the new value of X is going to be? It originally started out as 5. I'm going to now revise that variable and then add 3 to it, and I'm going to reprint it. What should the new value of X be? Okay, what do you guys think 5 plus 3 is?
8.
Okay. No, if I have original value of 5 and I'm going to add 3 to it, my new value should be 8, right? Because 5 plus 3 is 8. So that's just simple calculation you can do in Python by changing the original value, right? And then, so even if this original value was allocated way at the top part of your code and you don't want to scroll back up, you can then reassign it to a new value down below, right? You can also do calculations in Python too. So if I have a value of X, which is now 8, because we just said it, and I want to assign a Y value, in this case, we're going to make Y. Now, Y is going to be, I don't know, let's see, 12. So I want to say, what is, if I do X plus Y, what do you guys think the answer is going to be? So first of all, what's the current value of X?
5.
Okay, originally we started out with 5, right? Correct. But then we changed the value of X down here, correct?
Oh, it's 8.
Yeah, 8, exactly. So that's important to remember. What was the last value that was assigned to that variable? So even if you assign that 5 up here, if you wrote in your code to change the value, that's going to be the new value that's going to be used at the next operation. So that's why you have to be careful of what you're doing inside the code, because you could be changing the value and getting different results. So in this case, it started out as 5. I added 3 to that, which made my new number for X 8. Right? And then I said, Y is now going to be 12. So now I asked it, what is the value of X plus Y? So that's 8 plus 12. And what did it tell me? 20. Okay. Another way you can use calculations in Python is that, say you have the string of John, right? That's just going to print John, right? So when I run that, it's just going to print out John. right? But say that because it was so special, I want to be 3 times John. What do you guys think is going to happen there? Here's the multiple choice. Is the answer going to be 3 times John, or is it going to be John 3 times? What do you guys think?
John 3 times.
Exactly. I think that was Nana. So yes. So you can also do this neat feature in Python by multiplying the string. If you want to repeat that string 3 times, that may be different reasons why you want to do that. You might want to have a variable called John, and you might want to repeat it in different places. So instead of repeating it in your code multiple times, you can just do the multiply times 3. Okay. All right. Another cool feature is doing like division, right? So let's say I'm going to divide 12 divided by 3. What's the answer of 12 divided by 3? What do you guys think? What's 12 divided by 3?
4.
Yep. Okay. And you see what it did, right? It is 4. That is right. But a float number because Python originally sees both of these as both float, right? And there's a way that you can get away from that. You can either change it, make sure it comes out as an integer. So I can do print the integer of this calculation. All right, so now that, so you are originally it would come out as 4.0. I did say, oh, I don't want to see that trailing decimal. I just want the number. So I can change it to an integer. So that's one way of doing it that way too. All right. All right, so that was even. So now I'm going to do 12 divided by, I don't know, 5. Right? So instead of bringing out a calculator and figure out what the answer is, let's just run it and see what comes. All right, so that's going to be 2.4. Okay. All right, so another function. So I'm going to use the double slash. So the double slash is used, you guys remember when we have integers and remainder? You might be like 3 goes into this number 4 times, but you have a remainder of 2. You guys remember that long division? You can do the same thing in Python. All right, so what is this? So this command here that I have in the last screen, it says, I'm going to take 12 divided by 5, I mean 5 goes into 12. How many times? So we know it goes in there 2 times. Then I'm going to have a remainder left of what? 2, which is shown on the screen, right? So to give you an example, we can show, let's say 14. I'm going to run it. So 5 goes into 14 2 times with the remainder, right? Okay. Yep. All right, so that's just simple commands on Python. Does anybody have any questions so far? I kind of want to show you those elementary things before we get too heavy into like looking into databases and all that stuff. Anybody have any questions? All right. So additionally, I told you about how we can change the type. So if we have original value of 3 was integer, I could turn that integer into a string just by typing str in front of it, right? And then my new value will be not the integer, it will be the same with the integer 3, then float. All right. All right. Does anybody have any questions so far? Okay. All right. Another cool thing you can do in Python is you can do a list in Python. So what I just did in Python, I just created, give me a list of cars, right? List of cars that I'm interested in: Ford, Volvo, BMW. Sorry. Can you guys see?
Cannot see the screen.
Okay, I think it's stuck sharing with my internet. Let me reshare my screen. Sorry about that. What about now? Can you see my screen again now?
Yes, you can see it now.
All right. Yeah, sorry about that. All right, so this is a good example. So I want to create a list. This is called a list. Okay. I want to create a list of cars. So I just initially had Ford, Volvo, BMW, Hyundai. Does anybody have another car type that they're interested in?
Honda.
Okay, Honda. Okay. All right. And you see these are all what types of data type? Integers, floats, or strings? What type of data type is this one if it's in double quote?
Is
Okay.
it a
If you
float?
okay, if you don't, okay. These are strings. Whenever you see text encapsulated by double quotes, that means that's a string value. Okay? All right. So let's just run this simple code. So I say, create me a list of cars, and in the car types I want to be in that list is Ford, Volvo, BMW, Hyundai, and Honda. Then I'm just going to tell Python, hey, print that list of cars that I just created. So I'm going to run it. And let us run this course. And voila, there's the list of cars. Okay? Say that, hey, okay, I like the list of cars, but I want to actually add some more, another car type to the list. So instead of typing it back up here like we just did, I can just use the code, take the original list, cars, and I want to append it or add to it. And what I want to add to it, let's say Chevy. I want to add Chevy to the original list of cars. Then so what I'm going to do is reprint my new list of cars and see what happens. Okay, so I have my original list of cars, which includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars. I printed it, and you see it came out with 5 cars over here. This, okay, oh, I forgot to add Chevy, so I'm going to pin to the list or add to the list Chevy. All right, so my original list had 5 cars, and you see I now added Chevy to the list. Okay, the same way, I can also remove stuff from the list if I want to. So I can, instead of doing a pin, I can do remove. Say that I don't want that anymore. Oh, fix that. All right, so that's cool. All right, so the next thing I want to do is you can also tell it to find within the list. So say this list, I don't know, has, I don't know, 100 cards in it, and I don't want to scroll through the whole list. I can say, okay, print. Oh, another thing to think. If you have a list in Python, the number always starts with 0. So the first is going to have an index of 0. So this is going to be at position 0. This is position 1, Volvo. BMW's at position 2, Hyundai's position 3, so forth and so on. I want to say print, what is the car, okay, that is at position 3, for example. There's a couple ways you can do it. You can do it like I did down below. You can give it a value of X, find the car. identifier that's at position, let's use position 3. And I'm going to print X. What card is going to come out when I do the card that's at position 3? Which card is going to come out? Card type. Position 3.
Is it BMW?
Okay, Nana says BMW. Anybody else have a guess? Just put in the chat what you think, y'all. If I say print the card at value at index number 3, what should come out? Anna says BMW. Anybody else have any guess? Jonathan says BMW. Says Jaya. 4, what do you guys think? Position 3. Okay. 4, 6. Everybody says, all right, so let's see. All right, if I want to print the card that's at index at position 3, let's run it. Because it should say cars. Type on my part. Sorry about that. Aha. So it came out with Hyundai. So you guys were close, but remember in the list in Python, the index starts at 0. So Ford is at position 0, Volvo is at position 1, BMW is at position 2, and Hyundai is at position 3. So it's always good to remember in Python that indexes start at 0. In other languages, index starts at 1. In this case, it always starts at a 0. So if you're looking for data in a database or Excel spreadsheet that you're importing, make sure you're looking at the right index number. So I just want to illustrate that. Okay, cool. All right, something else you could do is that I have my list of cars. I want to say, okay, how many cars are in my list, right? So instead of me counting it, it could be 100, it could be 200, it could be 300 things in my list. So instead of me manually counting it, I can tell Python to say, how many cars are in my list that are called cars, right? Then I can print that value. Can print just shows it on the screen, tells the terminal to print it out for me, right? And then when I run it, it tell me how many cars are in my list. There are 5 cars on my list, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are good tips if you have a very extensive list. This is a very simple list. It's only 5 things. But if you're dealing with a database and you got hundreds and hundreds of data, and you just say, well, how many items are in this list, you can easily find the answer without manually counting. So I just want to show you that. Are there any questions so far? Okay. All right. All right. So let's do some actual model stuff. All right. Okay. Let's move this down here. All right, so I'm going to step through this. So this is a website that if you don't, you can install Python on your computer, but if you don't have it, there's a couple ones on Python IDEs you can use online. This is the one that I use. It's pretty simple. It's not a lot of ads, well, no ads. It's really simple to open up and run. So I like using this. So the address is online-python.com. So Taylor or Laura, if you can just put that in the chat for record keeping purposes. This is a good resource if you just want to play around with Python code, run it to see what's going on. You can use this to learn. You can say, okay, what is this? Do you work around with strings, integers, floats? This is a good way. All right. All right. So what I've done here, I've illustrated some of the stuff that we talked about, and I'm going to get into stuff that we haven't talked about that's going to be used for looking at different databases. So my first line of code is I just put in a comment. This is a comment like we showed before. And you see how Python turns it a different color than the rest of the code. That lets you know that it's a comment and it won't be executed. So first thing I did, I put in a comment said, this code that I have down below is going to input, and then it's going to analyze NBA game data from the year 2003. So that tells anybody else who's looking at this code, here's what you want to expect out of my code, right? Now I could have just leave it out and have them figure it out themselves, but it's easier than comment, as I mentioned before. Here's another comment. I'm going to say, here's what I'm going to do next. Okay, so I'm going to import a library All right, so think of a library is like a function, like if you were to go to your local library, right? A library has what? Books, right? I can go to a library and I can check out a book. In Python, you can do the same thing. You can go and grab something from a library. That way you can use that to help you in your analysis. So the library function that I grab is called pandas. So let me go and show you what pandas does, what it is. And pandas is really powerful feature in Python. Um, So when your first line of code, when you write most of your code, go ahead and import the library of pandas. It does a lot of data analysis for you. It help you clean up your data, organize your data. So if you're gonna be looking at any raw database that you get, always import pandas. Okay. So pandas is just a Python library. It's used to analyze data, or it's also used to clean data, right? So here's the different functions you can do with this. I'm not going to go over all of these, but just a couple of things that are useful with pandas is that for our key purposes, we want to use it to read in a CSV, which is that comma separated variable file, the Excel file that we get from the model database. We can also use it to clean the data if we have like missing data or data that's is in a number, we can clean it that way. We can check it for it. Um, empty cells. If I did an auto have showed you or was missing data, in like the teams or like the so let me just open it and show you what I mean. So it's crystal clear. So I'm going to open up Excel. Excel. You guys can use quick see fit. All right, so I'm going for Excel. So it should be coming out. All right, and I'm going to pull in so you guys understand what I mean by that. We're going to pull game.
Yeah, it looks like John's internet may have dropped, so um he should be back on in a few minutes. But were you all able to get to the online Python site okay? And you can get to the editor?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Laura, I think we were scheduled to have break around now. Do you think maybe that would be good to do now while John's getting back?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay. Maybe like 10 minutes, so 12:15, maybe you guys come back and you can step away for a few minutes and get water or anything you may need. And hopefully John will be back by then.
If everyone's back, I just want to make sure everyone's back so you can just drop something in the chat just to say you're back, or you can just unmute and say you're back. John, if you're ready, I think we're ready to get started.
Sorry, double mute. Yep. Let me share my screen. We'll get back going. We only just got a little bit more analysis to do, and we'll be good to go. I'm just going to show you some simple commands that then you guys can go off and play around with your data set that of your liking. All right, 1 second. Zoom. Share screen. Here. All right. So uh,
It says, oh, there it is. Never mind. Sorry.
the screen.
I can see the screen. Yeah.
Okay, all right. So I don't know where we left off, but I was briefly explaining how Pandas is a good library that you can check out in your code, and it helps you do a lot of things. So the first thing that you probably want to into it. So a couple of things you can do. It can import data from Excel file in the form of CSV, comma, separated variable value. It can turn it into a data frame, which cleans up the data. So say you have your CSV and everything is not in line, you can turn it into a data frame which makes it look similar to an Excel spreadsheet. So it'd be easier to look at, like rows and columns. You can use it to clean data, and I think that's where I left off. You can use it to clean data, fix the format of data, and then I was going to show you the example of why you want to do that. So, I was analyzing some NBA data. This is one of the files that I analyzed. We looked at this previously. This is the list of teams in the NBA. It has the team ID, when they were first created, their abbreviation, their nickname, where they're located, arena. And what I want to show you is that it also shows the capacity of each arena. So you can expect that we will have data on all of this stuff. As you can see in this database, we have no data on the stadium in New Orleans that's called Smoothie King Center. Love the name. Um, Brooklyn Nets has no data. Amway Center, where the Magic play, it has a capacity of 0 according to this data, and we know that's not true. So that's the type of data that you want to interrogate when you first look at your data set, see if there's any missing data, incorrect data, data that should be a certain format, like it's a string and it should be a number. So when you first get a data set, just pull it into Excel. Is my data clean enough to actually do analysis on it? Do I need to fix the data before I can truly do analysis on it? And we can use pandas to show you that your first step when you get a data is put in a C. Okay, that's your first step. All right, so let's go back to my web browser and we'll go here. I'm gonna minimize my code. So let's scroll this down. All right. So the first thing you want to do is you want to import the library called Pandas, and I briefly talked about the convenience of that. And typically what we do in coding language, we just use an acronym for it. So instead of typing the word pandas over and over and over again, we just typically give it a shorthand description. In this case, I'm going to import the library called pandas, and I'm just going to give it a short name called PD. That way I don't have to keep typing pandas. I can choose to type pandas each time, but who wants to do that where you can do it in a shorter form? I'm also going to import the library that's called CSV. That's going to allow me to actually read CSV files from some file server, either my local or online. This next one, you don't need the code. You don't need to worry about. That means get your current working directory, but we'll about that right now. So I imported my libraries, pandas. I named it as PD for convenience, and I also imported the library called CSV. And that's another thing about Python. There's a lot of free libraries that already been created by coders out there. So most of the hard work has already been done by other people. So instead of you writing the raw code to do certain things, just do a Google search. Just do pandas, read CSV, or pandas create a data frame. And 9 times out of 10, there'll be a search result that tells you the code that you need to do that. So most of the code has been written for you. That's why a lot of people are gravitating to Python because it's open source and there are a lot of people working on it, and most of the hard work has been done by other programs. All right, so this is another comment in my code. I'm going to read some CSV data. So the two files I got from my module is the game, is a list of games and dates, and I also got the list of teams. So let's just see what that looks like in raw form. So the list of teams, here's the teams.csv file. And I briefly touched on this. It has a list of the teams, where they were founded, where they're located, capacity, owner, general manager. The list of games. List of games has similar information. Let's go here. I just like to quickly format my data. I think this before, just to make it easier to read. I can open up all the things. So, and then I know like to highlight my first row and give it some color. That's a matter of preference. You don't have to do that. The games data set, it gives you the list when the game was played, the status of it. Obviously, this is historical data. So all the games are over. Remember we talked about before, maybe you don't. So unique identifier each team, and that data set tells you what team is associated with this number versus the visitor. When the game was played, the points for the home team, and the points for the away team. Okay. And this over here to the right, points for away. So the end result was 126 to 117 was the final score. And that's the other data there. But if we just scroll through our data set, most of this data is populated. I don't see any real issue with it. Other thing I would do, I would pull in the lookup or the ID so I know what team number 12762 is. But initially, this data set looks okay for analysis. Like, there's no openings there. There's no zero where they should be zero, where they should not be zeros. So this data set looks pretty clean. All right. So let's go back to my browser. And you guys stop me if you have any questions. So I'm going to read in both of those tables. And because I'm using the online version of Python and not one that I loaded, I have to just open it up into this window. So this is what data looks like in raw form. This is what's meant by comma separated value. Now you saw the Excel where everything was nice and clean. It was in its own column, own row. CSV is just the same data. It's just raw data in a separated by just a comma. So all the individual indicators like game ID is just here. It's separated by a comma from game status, which is here, etc. And the same thing for the teams, same information. All the data is just separated by a comma. That's why they mean what it means by comma separated value. That's why it's always good to open up to a spreadsheet so you can kind of it's just a lot cleaner to look at and analyze initially. So all right. All right. So that's the raw data. So that's file.
Did anyone else stop hearing John? I can still see his screen.
Yeah, it looks like it dropped him again. Yeah. Yeah, I think he may be having problems with his Wi-Fi. But while he comes back, I know some of you already decided on a data set from last time. If you could start pulling that up, just so we have it ready once we start working with our own data. Maybe that's something we can do in the meantime. Oh, it looks like you might be back.
All right, sorry, I'm back. I don't know what's going on with internet today. Apologies for that. Let me reshare. I'm almost finished. Um, all right, so you should be back at my screen, right? And then so I just read in the data from the CSV file. So I'm saying pandas, read in the data using this code, read underscore CSV. Give me the information from the games.csv database that I pulled in. That's the database that's here, which is the list of games. And this index underscore column, you don't really need to worry about it. It just basically said, don't use the first column as an index because I want to use other values as index. I want to do the same thing with the teams data. So all this information about the teams, where they're located, general manager. I want to read that in using the pandas command, read CSV. Okay. All right. So I'm going to add another code. So I'm going to say, all right, I just read in the data. I'm going to convert that raw data into a data frame, which is kind of like rows and columns that you normally used to seeing in Excel. So that's all this command does. It just gives it a variable name of data frame one. I want to read in that games data and convert it to a data frame. So let's just run that code. And that's just when it scores. All right. Oh, so I got some code down below that I could get rid of. I was tweaking it, get rid of that stuff. But I don't need all that right now. Just let it run. All right. Okay. All right. So, oh, I commented some of this stuff out for illustration purposes. So I just commented some of this stuff out. So let me uncomment it. So I created as a data frame one and two of the games data and the teams data. All right. The first thing I can do is I can print that data frame in its whole, and I'm gonna show you what that does. And I had commented some of the stuff so we didn't look at it. Okay, that's all commented. All right, so let's run it. Let's show you. Six. Okay, so let's comment out. Yes, I was working on some code at the bottom that I stopped working on, so I come back over here. Let me just print this stuff. All right, cool. Now we're back. All right, so what happened is I printed the original data frame, which is the games data, and by default, because if there's a lot of data in your data frame one is the games data, Python will originally only print the first 5 lines from index 0 through 4, 2, 3, 4, 5, the first 5 lines, and the last 5 lines by default. Okay. So if I just say print data frame one, it'll give me the first 5 lines, the first last line. Okay. The way to get around for that, if you want to print a certain number of lines, comment that code out. You can tell it exactly how many lines you want to see. So in this case, I want to print the first 30 lines of each of the data frames. Okay. So I'm going to, and you can change the number to whatever number. And the reason why you want to do that, you want to kind of just look at your data, make sure that you imported it properly. All right, so the code here is print data frame 1, right? And head just means give me the top 30 items in my database, the first 30 that come up in the list. Okay. Same thing with the data frame 2. Show me the top 30 items in that list. Right. You could do that just to do a quick look at your data, make sure it came across properly. Does that make sense so far? Okay. All right. So instead of printing the first 30, maybe I just want to look at the last 30 in my data set. So instead of saying head, I would do tail. So show me the last 30 of each one. And this is a quick way to just look at your data, make sure it came in good. So let's clean this up and run it. Wait for it to finish. Okay, so now when I did that, it showed me the last 30 items. You can see the index number over here. So it showed me the last 30 items of data frame 1, which is the games data, right? And then it showed me the last 30 of the teams data. And remember, the teams data only has 30 teams in it, so it should basically shows me all the data. If I were to do like 10, for example, it'll show me the last 10 of the teams in that data set. There's only 30 teams in the NBA. That's why it showed me everything. All right, so you can see here, it just showed me the last 10, 20 through 29. Okay, cool. So that's good information. So now I know that my data came in properly. Let's do some analysis on it. So first thing I want, one of the things I want to do, and I'm going to explain this code. I'm going to get rid of the comments so we can actually use this text. So let me walk you through this code real quick. All right, so let's interrogate data frame 1, which is the games data. So what I'm curious is learning, what are the average points per game for the home team? And I want to sort it by season. So let's look at the games data set. So what's the average points per game for the home team sorted by the season? So here's all this data here that I could manually look through if I wanted to, but that wouldn't be efficient. So here's all the information on the games. Here's the season it was played. Here's the points for home. I showed you points away. So I could manually find this stuff, but who wants to do that? And then I would have to do some calculations manually. What is the average? So let's use Python to do that. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to a variable name. You can call it whatever you want. I just call it data frame number 1, which is my games data, and I want it as a group. So the function that I'm going to use is take that data frame data, and I want to group it by the season. Okay, that's what I asked it to do. Okay, and then I want to say find me the points for the home team and give me the average of that. That's what this mean thing code says there. Find the points at home, then give me the average of that. So I have the average. I didn't want to sort that by the season because I want it sorted by season here. Okay, and ascending means small. So that's what it's going to do. So let's run that code. Let's comment on this other stuff. So we see on. Yeah, when I comment, it turns it to green, meaning it's not going to get executed. Okay, data frame. Okay. All right. So let's comment out the last one. We'll just look at that next. All right. So I want to find the average per game. So command just tells it to print it to the terminal or the output screen so you can see what the output is.
And we'll just let that finish. Oh. Man, my internet is tripping today. All right, so just let that run. Shouldn't take that long. All right, cool. So we got the answer we're looking for. So let's just look at the results. All right, so I asked the question, what are the average points per game for the home team, right? And then I want it sorted by season. So it's sorted by the season from the earliest season on to the latest, because I said it's ascending true. I mean, I want it from the smallest to the largest. See that? And you can see the points is also sorted. The season for the home team is shown right here. Okay. All right. So say I want that. So that's good information. All right. So now let's look at this next code. So that was good. So I want to know now, what is the average point for the home team? But I want to sort by the amount of points, meaning the quantity of points, from greatest to smallest. So during which season did the home team score the most points? And then that's what I'm asking. So I'm going to group by season. So tell me this. I'm going to look for the home team, the average home team score, right? And then I'm going to sort that from the greatest to the smallest. So during what year did they score the most, home team score the most points? That's what we're looking for. So we're going to run that. Strings code here. Typo somewhere. False. Oh, okay, because of my comment. So this is sometimes what you have to do with your code. Sometimes you have a typo, sometimes you have missing a comment that you're supposed to be commenting out. So you just figure out what went wrong with the code and then fix it. That's part of programming. So let this run. That shows so slow, but almost done with this, and then we're turning back over for closeout. But let's just see the analysis of this last run. All right, good. All right, so it didn't take that long this time. So now the second question I posted said, what's the average points per game for the home team, meaning points for home? And I want to sort it by the largest average score to the smallest, right? So that's what it is, right? So instead of it sorting by the season, you see it now sorted by what team scored the most points. So I will automatically know if I want to know what season did the home team score the most points, average points, I could then find that data. So we know that that season was 2022, and the average point scored by the home was 114 points. So that's just a quick analysis of how you can just look at data in a thing and sort for different things. So instead of manually looking through it and doing hand calculations, you can use Python to do most of the calculations for you. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now, and I hand it back over to Laura and Taylor. And if there's any questions, you can put them in chat or just come off mute.
I guess before we wrap up, Taylor, you wanted to add something to what kind of we just learned. I thought it was very like a very good start to finish to see how you take, data that we have started looking at and then how you use it to analyze and walking through every step. But Taylor, if you wanted to add anything, or you say anything?
Yeah, and I'm not sure how much Python knowledge you all have or have experience with, but um, even if you didn't follow everything, I think the main point is that the questions that you want answered from the data are going to be really important. So when you're looking at your data sets and thinking about things you want to learn from it, writing down those questions that you may have about the data, that's going to really help guide your analysis. And that'll determine what types of, calculations we need or what tables we need is going to be guided by those questions that you ask. So if you start there, that might be a little easier before getting really deep into the data and, you may not even know what you're looking for. So if we're clear about what we're looking for, this process is going to be a lot easier, from my experience. So that's what I would have to add.
Yeah, that's the true statement because you need to know what you're looking for first to decide you need to go with that, right? You can ask most about the data set. So identify, here's my data, what I want to learn from this data. So ask that question. She Taylor is correct. That's what you want.
John, I'm not sure if you're still talking, but it's probably the connection. But I just want to say, like, if anybody has any questions just overall about what kind of John went through in this session, I think now would be a good time to ask those questions. And it doesn't have to be specific, but I think just the overall, the process that he just went through. Do we have any questions about those?
Well,
Yeah, and I'm not sure how many of you all already, I think most of us already had a data set in mind that we are pretty committed to. So even if it's in reference to that, if you have questions, you could ask those too.
okay.
Okay, so looks like I don't see there any questions. Hopefully you all can think of some maybe for the next time that we meet. Um, I don't know about anybody else, but I know I'll definitely go play around with Python on the W3 website, I think, schools, and just play around with that, and also try to play around with the online python.com website and see what I can make happen. So I would definitely recommend to students also to go play around with that because it was a lot. But I think playing around with data types like integers, the floats, the strings, and just kind of getting a handle of that so we can get some better understanding the next time. I think it'd be a great idea for you all to do.
Yep, I agree. W3schools.com is the website. And there's a lot of self-paced tutorials. You can just click through. You can learn a lot. And like I said, I use it in professional practice. So it's a really good website. Just go there, click through some of the web pages, follow the examples, and you're going to learn a lot just by doing that.
Alrighty. Um, Lastly, I know Dr. Tony wanted us to take a group picture just before we logged off one another time. So if y'all want to show your face, that'd be great. And I
Yep.
could take a screenshot of us.
Yeah, just everybody turn the camera on, take a quick screenshot. Okay, so hold on, stage reconnecting. So just 1 second. Kayla, is that Meredith in the background on your picture?
Yes, it is. It's SMB, the building that I'm in like 24/7.
Ah, awesome. Cool. All right. Is everybody on camera? Sage, are you back yet? She's still reconnected. So 1 second, then we'll take a good screenshot and we'll leave everybody for the rest of their day. Well, hopefully you guys learned a lot. I know I went kind of fast some of the areas, but I kind of want to touch on some of the simple stuff and then show how you can do some data analysis. But you won't be an expert in it, obviously, with these sessions. We just want to introduce the topics to you. But Taylor's correct. Knowing the question that you're trying to answer is the first step. You back at Sage or? So while Sage is reconnected, what do you guys have planned for today? You guys doing anything fun?
Me, I'm studying Meredith. They have Cornhuskin, which is like our own little form of homecoming. But I decided not to go because I have a lot of homework to do. So that's what I'll be doing.
Awesome. Cool. Cool. Anybody have anything fun? I guess studying is fun, Caitlin.
My favorite part of the day is eating, so
All
that's
right. If not, okay.
okay. So we're gonna take a picture. I'll say 1, 2, 3. So Sage, if you want to turn your camera on so you can take a picture. Oh, if not, I don't think that'll be okay. Okay.
Okay.
If you want to smile, no.
Everybody.
1, 2, 3. Okay, great. I got it. Just last before y'all
Cool.
head off,
All
our
right.
next session is November 7th. If anyone else wants to say anything.
Cool. All right. Have a good day, everybody.